Hello guys, it's Teenage GC Fan back in another video, and it's a Super Life, Supergirl's 100th episode. Honestly, maybe one of Supergirl's best episodes ever. It's filled with many cameos, time travel, references, and so much good stuff happening here. Because this episode is 100% about character. Specifically, Kara and Lena's relationship. Is there anything Kara could have done differently? How much of what has happened is on Kara? And those questions ground and drive the hour as it careens through multiple contrasting tones, from playful and comedic to tragic, heartfelt. But picking up where last week's episode left off, we find Kara and Alex surprised by the return of Mr. Mixus-Pitalik, now played by Thomas Lennon, who brings lots of energy to the role. And seeing him play this character, it just felt like Mr. Mixus-Pitalik. Like, I've seen parts of the old Super Friends cartoon, and that's probably one of the best examples of Mr. Mixus-Pitalik. Also, maybe like Superman, the animated series and stuff like that. And this just felt like that. And I was so happy to be seeing this in this episode. Because like I said, Mr. Mixus-Pitalik had so much energy as he was bouncing around Kara's apartment. He was just walking on furniture. And he was basically just having fun the whole time. And he basically treats the entire apartment as his own playhouse. And I loved every second of it, because Supergirl rarely has this kind of energy in an episode. So I was really happy to see this here. And we last saw Mixie in Season 2 when he showed up looking like Peter Gadiot. And tried forcing Kara to marry him before she made him read his name backward, which sent him packing back to the fifth dimension. And since then, some cosmic force has ordered him to revert back to his true appearance, which is this apparently, and to make amends with everyone he wronged. So I like this way that they explained why he looks different, because I thought it would be something simple like, oh, it's because of Crisis, or oh, he can just change his look whenever he wants to, and this is just what he wants to look like. But I like that this is his true form, and the way he looked back in Season 2, he changed his appearance to that because he thought that accent and that look would impress Kara. So I really like that explanation. And so Kara is next on Mixie's list of helping people. And to do so, he's come to Kara with a proposition, a do-over. Using his powers, he will send Kara back in time and let her tell Lena she's Supergirl on her own terms. If she likes the outcome of what she sees, then Mixie will snap his fingers and the change will become reality. And as a safeguard, Mixie also gives her a recording of him saying his name backward in case she wants to banish him back to the fifth dimension at any point. Ever the voice of reason, Alex points out that changing history for friendship is a very extreme action. But Kara is so racked with guilt over the sad state of her relationship with Lena that she's willing to try it. So, trusting Kara can handle the situation, Alex and Jean give their support, and Mixie snaps his fingers, blipping them away to a happy place, which is a paintball match. And so they're having fun while Supergirl's out here making this big, tough decision. But from there, Kara and Mixie plop down and take a trip through Kara's past, using a variety of devices, like an old-timey movie projector, Mixie Flicks, which of course is a reference to Netflix. The format of it actually looked exactly like Netflix, and I was just on Netflix the other day watching the Mixus-Pitalik episode from Season 2. So that was cool. And then he also used Betamax tapes, and each of the tapes were basically like different episodes of Supergirl. But they had names and titles that was like the one where Kara met Lena, the one where Rain was defeated, and stuff like that. And that is a clear reference to Friends, the TV show, because Friends, every episode of that series, the title is the one where, and then it's whatever it is. So that was a clear reference to that, and I really liked that reference, and I picked up that on that as soon as I saw it. So anyway, Kara has to find the right moment in time to come clean to Lena. So first, Kara jumps back to season 4 and tells Lena right before Mercy Graves attacks L-Corp. Unfortunately, Lena runs away to Metropolis to see Sam, who assures Lena that she isn't a villain, and thus isn't around to save Kara's life when the Graves disperse kryptonite into the atmosphere. Because of that dark turn, Kara realizes they need to jump back even further so that she doesn't die. So she heads to season 3 and tells Lena the truth then. Unfortunately, this just pisses Lena off because she was scared and alone when she found out Sam was Rain and would have turned to Kara for support if Kara had been honest with her. Despite this falling out, Kara decides to hang around this possible timeline for a bit longer to see if Lena eventually comes around. And luckily she does, right before Rain kills her and Mon-El in a battle. And I liked how Mixius Pitalik said, "I never understood what you saw in him," and then how in real life Melissa Benoist and Chris Wood are actually married. So, and then Mon-El's dead after that. But then it gets all changed again because since that scenario didn't work out, Kara decides to jump back even further and tell Lena she's Supergirl when they became friends in season 2. At first, this seems like the best move because, having Supergirl as a friend changes the public's opinion of Lena, which we learn thanks to some old-timey newspaper headlines and announcements from Mixius Pitalik. Unfortunately, Ben Lockwood, who of course is great to see in this episode making his return because Sam Witwer, the actor that plays him, great actor. I've seen him in a lot of stuff. He was recently on Riverdale. He was great on Smallville as well. But he shows up as Ben Lockwood and he kidnaps Lena, and the cult leader, the Rao cult leader that we also saw return in this episode, his name is Coville or whatever, and then Lockwood threatens to kill them if Kara doesn't reveal her secret identity. So, a conflicted Kara tells Wynn, who tells her that she doesn't need to worry about any of them except for Lena right now because everyone else can handle themselves. Yeah, that doesn't work out very well for them. I mean, I love this exchange because it lent some real emotion to a very familiar superhero trope. And furthermore, it served as a nice callback to the conversation Kara and Wynn had in Supergirl's pilot when she first revealed her powers to him. But, I mean, this doesn't really work out very well for them because, they all die. But Kara ends up unmasking herself to the world, and Lockwood frees Lena and Coville. But then Lockwood turns around and kills everyone close to Kara, including Kat Grants, who she didn't return in this episode, but we did see her image on a screen. So we saw a lot of TV screens in this episode. And after a third scenario has failed, Kara becomes disheartened and wonders if everything would have worked out better if she and Lena had never become friends. Spoiler alert, she's wrong. Because in that dystopian scenario, Lena rules over National City with an iron fist. With an army of Lexosuits, which are basically Sentinels, that she's using fifth dimensional energy to power them. And something interesting that you can note is that when you see one of the Lexosuits in the episode, on it clearly says Hope. I don't know if I'm trying to get it on screen here. Again, I've got to go back quite a bit. Yep, right there. See, it says Hope. And that's, of course, a reference to earlier parts of this season with Hope and Eve being taken over by Hope and all that stuff. but yeah. So Lena also has Rain under her control and an evil Brainy. And then it also turns out that she has a metallo-like kryptonite heart. So Mixie and Kara briefly get stuck in this world because Mixie can't access his powers, which gives the script an excuse to give us a major action beat that sees Supergirl fight Metallo, Lena, Mon-El and Jean fight Rain, and Alex, Kelly, and Nia fight Brainy, and apparently Kelly is now Guardian. Well, at least she has the shield thing. Maybe her brother just left that to her because, just to protect her and stuff. And to be honest, this was probably the weakest part of the episode for me because it felt like we only took a trip to this dystopian future, so the script had a reason to give us an action sequence, which I don't think it necessarily needed, but it was still nice to have, especially seeing all these characters together, seeing them all fight together one last time. But through this part, what they're trying to do is, because Mixius Pitalik can't use his powers, there is a hat that he has to find that is filled with fifth dimensional power, and if he finds that hat, then he can reverse all this stuff and get them back to Kara's apartment. And then they end up finding it, and it's a purple bowler hat, and if you're a fan of the comics or cartoons or whatever, like I mentioned with the Super Friends cartoon, Mr. Mixius Pitalik is known for wearing a purple bowler hat, so I really like seeing that hat in this episode. The only thing that disappointed me about it is that he never wore it, and then after he sent them back to the apartment, we never saw it again. So that was really disappointing, but Mixius Pitalik actually is a recurring character in this episode, so we will see him in other episodes this season. So hopefully when we see him show up again, he'll have that hat, and that would be really cool to see. But anyway, like I said, they are able to snap back into the apartment, and after all of that is over, Kara has had a breakthrough. She can't and shouldn't change the past. And this is the same thing that Barry learned after 3 seasons of messing up the timeline and Flashpoint and all that stuff. But Kara, it took her one adventure and she was like, oh, that's a bad idea. Barry took him 3 seasons at least. So she simply needs to own her mistakes and accept the consequences and try to do better as she moves forward. And that's what she learned throughout this episode. Even though the script doesn't directly call it out, the lesson Kara takes away from this episode ties back into what Allura told Kara way back in the pilot. She said, "There is no correct path in life. You will lose your way many times. What's important is that you find your way back to the brave girl you always were." And with this episode, Kara has taken major steps in that direction. Kara also realizes that she can no longer feel responsible for what Lena has done since finding out her secret, because she has no control over her. In fact, she visits Lena and tells her just that and tells her how she feels. She says, "From now on, you're accountable for your actions. If you decide to forgive me, I will be there for you. But if you continue to work with Lex, if you're going through with whatever the two of you are planning, I will do everything in my power to stop you, just like I would any other villain." And this is a very decisive character moment for both characters here. Kara has now broken free from the guilt that she's felt all season, and now the ball is firmly in Lena's court. It seems as though Lena will have to do some soul searching and reckon with her actions in the back half of the season. And I'm thinking she'll probably continue to work with Lex, but through that whole time, Kara's words will haunt her, and how she called her a villain, and then she'll realize, oh, I don't want to be a villain, and then she'll turn on Lex, and then she'll be friends with Kara again. So like I said, this was a great episode. Mixius Pillick is a great character, and he will be returning for future episodes. And we did see his little spark thing at the end, so maybe that's another hint at that. And we actually got the theme song that played while we saw his spark at the end. I'm not sure what that's from. I'm guessing that's probably from Mixius Pillick in this old Super Friends cartoon or something like that. So then I was thinking, the Justice League, or Super Friends, were just set up in the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover with the Hall of Justice and everything. So, what if, like, the Super Friends, they get, like, a mini-series or something, or it's, like, every crossover in the future is, like, a Super Friends Justice League team-up. And Mr. Mixius Pillick was one of the best villains on that old Super Friends cartoon. So I think it would be really cool to see Mixius Pillick fight against the Super Friends at some point as well. Although this version of Mixius Pillick is also kind of reformed now too, so that wouldn't make sense, but whatever, it'd still be really cool to see. So this was what happened in this episode of Supergirl, the 100th episode. I can't believe I've been watching 100 episodes of Supergirl. This is probably the best celebration, like 100th episode that I've ever seen. Well, if I'm being honest, like the only other one that I've seen, at least recently, that I can really remember that well is The Flash, which was just last season. And that episode really wasn't that great, especially now comparing it to this. This episode was amazing, and I can't wait to see more like this. There's actually something else I forgot to talk about. Mon-El and Winn. So, of course, Winn left and went back to the future in the last episode. But then we saw him return for this episode, as well as Mon-El. And this was in the dystopian future thing. But then, like I said, when Mixius Pillick got the hat, he snapped his fingers, and then he and Kara were back in the apartment. But then that was the last time that we saw Mon-El and Winn. Their last words were pretty meaningless, and there was really no wrap-up to that. So I guess they're just still in the future being superheroes. But I wish they would have wrapped that up more and maybe had a conclusion and an ending between Kara and those characters. Even though you got that one with Winn in the last episode. Because this may very well be the last time that we see these characters. Because Jeremy Jordan, the actor that plays Winn, he's on Broadway and doing a whole bunch of stuff. That's why he hasn't been on the show. That's why he left. And he only returned for these couple episodes. So he's really busy. And it's possible that we may never see him in the Arrowverse before. So I really liked that ending that we had for his character in the last couple episodes with the 2-part thing with him and Toyman and all that stuff. But then you have him in this episode, and then say that this is his last appearance in the Arrowverse ever. It was kind of a meaningless thing, like a meaningless ending. And then same with Mon-El. I really liked that speech we got with, or like conversation that he had with Kara, but at the same time, that was earlier in the episode, and we never got a conclusion with those two characters. Like, yes, that was conclusion with that conversation, but then they still saw each other later in the episode, and then it was just like, snap, oh, they're gone. So I just wish that there would have been more of a wrap up there, and that was pretty much the only real problem I had with this episode. But let me know your thoughts on this episode down in the comments below. Like I said, this was a great episode. So let me know if you feel the same about this. What did you like? What did you not like? So let me know what you think down in the comments below, like I literally just said. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and hope to see you in the next video, so I can bestow all Marvel knowledge,